Road. Snakes. Why did it happen with snakes?
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Batman.
I am the Father.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Okay, so today we are jumping into something really fascinating, I think. It's this intersection between, like, classic cinema obsession and then this really radical, sometimes quite uncomfortable self-exposure.
Yeah.
We're doing a deep dive into the source material around a 2011 micro-budget documentary called For the Love of Lugosi.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission today, really, is to try and uncover the surprising depth in this short film.
Oh.
Because it starts off looking like it's about film history, but it morphs pretty quickly into this deemly therapeutic, intensely personal story.
Right.
And just the fact that it got made, under these conditions feels like an achievement itself. So we want to see how it pulls off that balancing act.
Well, it all kicks off, like the title says, with Bela Lugosi. He's the anchor for the whole thing. The guy main people still see as the Dracula.
Oh, absolutely. The definitive one for many.
Yeah, easily the biggest horror star from that whole black and white era. So when D.T. Wilson, the presenter, decides to make this documentary, he's really diving into the history of horror, specifically, the silent scream era, that shadow-filled atmosphere Lugosi just perfected.
And that history, that's the core conflict the film throws at you right away, isn't it?
Exactly.
D.T. Wilson argues pretty passionately, actually, that these old masters of horror, this whole golden age of, atmospheric terror, it's basically fading.
Disappearing.
He feels it's getting completely ignored in favor of what he sees as today's obsession with slasher and torture porn. That's his term.
Yeah, and it's more than just him not liking modern movies. It feels like a lament, for cultural memory. He's asking, basically, if we forget the originals, what happens to the genre itself?
That's a good point.
It's a pretty strong opening argument, trying to frame Lugosi not just as some historical footnote, but as someone culturally relevant right now.
So D.T. Wilson makes this strong historical case. He's arguing, for real fear, you need that psychological dread, not just buckets of blood.
Right.
Which takes us straight into the first big part of the documentary.
Yes.
His, field research.
Yeah, exactly. To test his theory that the Golden Age is forgotten, he takes this really simple but crucial question. Who is Bela Lugosi? And he takes it to the local shopping center.
Okay.
And this little bit of, street cinema, it gives him a pretty harsh wake-up call. Maybe one he expected. I don't know.
So what did he find? Did it really back up his worst fears?
Oh, absolutely. The chats he has with people, they really highlight this profound lack of horror literacy, you could say. I mean, people give some ideas about what modern horror means to them, usually very physical, immediate threats, that kind of thing. But the big takeaway about Lugosi, if they remember him at all...
It's Dracula.
It's basically just Dracula, yeah. The huge filmography, the history, the context of the studio system he came from, it's mostly gone. It confirms his fear. The Golden Age is lost to a lot of people.
Okay, so that's a strong moment for the firm's historical argument. But then this is where it pivots so fast, it almost becomes a different film entirely. It goes from this, academic defense and mall interviews to something incredibly intimate, almost jarringly so.
It really does. It shifts from, I love this forgotten art, to something more like, this art form actually saved me. D.T. Wilson turns the camera entirely onto his own past. He starts explaining exactly why that isolation, those shadows, the sort of confined psychological spaces in classic horror films resonated so deeply with him when he was younger.
Does that quick turn feel, I don't know, does it hurt the historical argument? It seems like it could be a bit jarring for someone watching. It's
definitely a risk, yeah. But the notes we have suggest it feels earned somehow. The whole defense of Lugosi, it kind of acts like a Trojan horse. It gives the viewer something external, something comfortable maybe, to focus on before D.T. pulls back the curtain on his own internal struggles. The love for Lugosi isn't just a preference, it was a coping mechanism. And the film kind of needs to show that link quickly before you lose interest in just the history lesson.
Right, it's the specificity that makes it land, isn't it?
Yes.
Lugosi becomes this very specific cultural thing that lets D.T. talk about a universal feeling like isolation.
That's precisely it. Classic horror often deals with, the unseen threat, the outsider, the monster who's fundamentally lonely. So if D.T. Wilson says he identifies with the monster, well, you have to ask why.
Yeah.
And that question opens the door to what the documentary is really about.
And this intense personal shift, it leads us right into thinking about the nature of the short film itself as a format. We see in our notes that, okay, lots of filmmakers use shorts as a kind of pitch, right? Like a proof of concept to get money for a bigger movie.
Sure, a calling card.
Exactly. But for the love of Lugosi, it falls squarely into this other category, personal achievement. It was made on a tiny budget, a micro budget, but the real achievement wasn't about technical polish. It was the act of making it and the honesty packed into it.
And that micro-budget thing is so key, I think, because it probably allowed for that radical honesty we see.
How so?
Well, when you don't have big financial stakes, no corporate overlords, no producers breathing down your neck worried about marketability, there's just this enormous freedom to just bare your soul.
And the presenter and writer, D.T. Wilson, he really takes that freedom and runs with it.
Nice.
The sources describe him as brutally honest. They stress the film pulls no punches throughout. He is the emotional core, and he clearly decided, okay, I'm holding nothing back.
And the things he talks about are incredibly sensitive. I mean, feelings about his parents, severe isolation growing up, details about his health, and specifically his diagnosis of Asperger syndrome, and explaining how that shaped the person you're seeing on screen. That is heavy, heavy material for a short film that started out talking about a black and white movie star.
That takes enormous courage, just laying that all out there publicly. The sources do mention that because the subject matter is so intense, his narration can sometimes feel awkward or difficult to listen to.
Which is totally understandable.
Yeah. But if he wasn't trying to launch some big awareness campaign, what was the point of all that intense screen time? What was the function?
The motivation, at least as the sources see it, seems really internal, therapeutic, maybe. He doesn't seem to be aiming to educate the public so much as he's using that screen time to exercise some personal demons. That's the phrase used.
Okay.
The film itself becomes a kind of public catharsis, using that cinematic structure, beginning, middle, hopeful, end, as a framework for just radical self-disclosure. It's like self-therapy caught on camera.
So the audience is less of a target market and more like a witness.
Exactly.
We're watching him process his trauma almost in real time.
Precisely. And this actually leads to a pretty powerful emotional arc. Because, given how tough the subject matter is, the isolation, the health stuff, you might expect it to end on a really bleak note, unresolved.
Yeah, you might.
But the documentary actually finishes on a surprisingly positive message.
Really? How does he manage that turn? How does he pull back from all that darkness?
Well, he reflects on how his life has gotten significantly better since he moved away from his childhood home. And he doesn't just tell you, he shows you the actual estate.
Oh, wow.
And the source notes describe it quite symbolically as a now condemned horror show in its own right. It's this really powerful visual metaphor for the whole psychological landscape he managed to escape.
Wow. Showing the condemned house. That's a crucial visual, isn't it? It ties his personal struggle right back into the horror genre he loves and defends. Like he literally lived his own horror film. Putting that on camera takes incredible bravery.
It really does. And it wraps up that narrative arc quite neatly, moving from the darkness of the past, symbolized by that physical place, to the sort of hope and improvement of his present situation. It's a tough watch, no doubt, but it does ultimately deliver a message of resilience.
And that resilience, it feels like it's supported by the director's choices, too. The debut director, Andy Greger, took what the sources call a very straightforward approach, which, when the emotional content is this intense, feels like a smart choice. Simplicity works. It means the style doesn't distract from the emotional core.
It is straightforward, yeah, but not visually boring. Greger does manage to use a couple of different styles to keep you engaged, and importantly, to connect that emotional theme back to the Lugosi obsession.
Okay, so what were those stylistic touches? Can you walk us through them?
Sure. So you've got the main style, right? Which is D.T. Wilson talking direct to camera, just walking you through his life, his arguments. That grounds the whole thing in total honesty.
The foundation.
But then you get these little visual flourishes that reference his fandom.
Like the Gothic getup.
Exactly. In the graveyard scenes, the notes specifically say DT is kited out in the Gothic horror style.
Okay.
And that choice, it's not just for looks. It feels like a visual representation of maybe his emotional armor and his dedication to the genre that gave him some solace.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And beyond that, the film also uses these small drama interjections, little brief moments of stage drama that kind of break up the monologue, maybe give the emotional details a bit more room to land.
So Greger really found a way to use D.T. Wilson's unique delivery, his presence, to the film's advantage. He gets praised for using that unique screen presence to make the film memorable. And obviously that presence is completely tied up with the raw honesty he brought.
Yeah, and if we connect that to the bigger picture, the overall assessment seems really positive because of that honesty.
Right.
There's a commenter mentioned in the notes who said that, yeah, okay, it's short, so it only scratches the surface of some really complex issues, but it does an amazing job of just introducing DT's story. It comes recommended precisely because it bears its soul for all to see. That transparency, the honesty of the subject, it completely makes up for any, technical or budget limits. The message is the spectacle here.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive. Ultimately, I think we're left recognizing these two threads just beautifully tangled together. On one hand, you've got the lasting power of classic cinema Lugosi, the golden age, not just as fun movies, but as a kind of mirror or a language or even a tool for coping with really deep personal struggles.
And that brings up an important question for you, the listener, doesn't it? What this short film review really shows is that powerful intersection between a very specific fan obsession, horror films in this case, and this kind of radical self-exposure. That intense, almost academic focus on Lugosi gave D.T. Wilson a unique and maybe necessary way to talk about his own universal pain.
Which leads us to our final thought. Thinking about the filmmaking itself and linking it to that incredible honesty we've been talking about, making a short film, especially on a micro budget, it is a personal achievement, right?
Definitely.
But maybe consider the link between that achievement and the need to be brutally honest when the material is literally your own life. Does that micro budget short film format where the stakes are purely personal, not really financial or commercial, does it allow for a level of soul-bearing, a kind of honesty that a bigger, maybe more ambitious project might feel pressure, market pressure to sanitize, or even just avoid altogether?
It feels like the format itself almost gives permission for a deeper kind of confession, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how many really great, honest stories are out there sitting in micro-budget films, precisely because they were maybe seen as too personal for a big studio. Something to think about, maybe, the next time you hear someone defending the classics.
We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.